program that focuses on leadership, and I am passionate about leadership and empowerment. I wanted to be part of a team that positively influences the capacity of people to flourish in their professional and personal life and to strive to perform at their level best.
Specific. I joined Girleada because I wanted something different. I needed something that will take me to a place where I feel like I am ready to become a leader. I'm ready to desire to be a leader, and I'm ready to take the first step of becoming a leader.
I decided to join this program mainly because I felt that as a young leader, I was in great need of a community of leaders who I could learn from and gain insight on how to develop and grow into becoming the best leader I could possibly be in my society.
So I applied for Girleada because firstly and most importantly, I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more about what it takes to be a great leader. And secondly, I wanted to find myself in a space with other ladies and other women who, are passionate about leadership, especially as being females. And lastly, I also wanted to learn how to be more confident and more assertive in my leadership style. Um, yeah, so
My leadership aspirations mainly center around making a groundbreaking impact in the world of tech as a woman and establishing the pathway for more women to join STEM.
Um, I am an African feminist. I am an African philosopher. I am an all-round academic. I believe fully in women empowerment and mentorship and ensuring that the next generation of young women have mentors and have a space to grow and learn.
As a leader, I aspire to continue serving the young women in my community, but also to do this across Africa and the globe. I also aim to empower and inspire others and hopefully get the opportunity to be the voice on behalf of the young people of this continent.
Are to ensure I have a meaningful contribution to where the world is going in terms of my leadership skills, in terms of providing quality education in the human capital development field outside of the traditional educational systems. I'm deeply passionate about perpetuating a personal culture of service.
To define authentic leadership, I would say that it's the kind of leadership style that promotes transparent behavior. In other words, authentic leaders are true to themselves and they're genuine to the values that guides them. And I always say that there's nothing better than being yourself and reveal your own uniqueness. And with that principle, I think you become a phenomenal leader.
What is authentic leadership? When we speak about authentic leadership, the word that comes to mind is that of self awareness. That is to be aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, your abilities, your capabilities, as well as your opportunities. Another important thing that relates to authentic leadership is to be true to yourself. By having self awareness and being true to oneself, it will allow you to become the best version of yourself and in turn becoming a great leader.
My highlights from the program were the speeches that we got from the guest speakers, the training information that we got, the resources that we got throughout the training, and the interactions that we had as co-facilitators together with the participants. Those were like my highlights from the whole entire program.
Takeaways, or my favorite part of the program, of the 2023 Girl Leader program, would have to be meeting all the amazing guest speakers who will come and talk to us and really just share their journey, share the obstacles they went through, the things they're going through, and the challenges they meet, which was a very inspiring process, because then you realize that these challenges are not unique to you as a leader. People are going through them and they are conquering and doing well and establishing themselves and claiming their space. So that was really inspiring in this plight and this journey to becoming an authentic leader.
Okay. Hello, my
My name is Lebogang Moati. I am 27 years old, and welcome to your graduation ceremony. Thank you so much to Girleada for inviting me today to speak about authentic leadership and my journey to becoming the authentic leader that I am, or rather the authentic leader that I try to be. So currently I am a medical biological scientist, and I specialize in embryology, or rather as an embryologist. In layman terms, I am an IVF specialist. So we get patients that are not able to conceive naturally, and we try our best to assist them with assisted reproductive technology. Outside of that, I am a Golden Key International Society member, which lists the top 15% learners in an academic group. And I got that qualification in, or rather achievement, in 2018. I could be incorrect. And that was while I was doing my medical biosciences degree at the University of the Western Cape. I also managed to get my honors in the same degree program, and I specialized in spermatology. So that is me academically in a nutshell. But obviously, as you go throughout your journey, there are certain phases in your life that influence who you have become right now. So I'm going to start from the very beginning to give you a picture as to how I became who I am, or how I'm striving to become who I want to be. So my journey as a leader started in primary school, where I was nominated and selected as head girl of my primary school. The reason I'm starting there is to showcase the level of different leaderships and leadership skills that a person needs to attain in order to achieve certain standards. So I must say that in primary school, I was known as the academic, the nerd. I did very well in my academics, and that's what gave me the recognition, and that's why I was selected as head girl. But at that point, I think it is very important to acknowledge that I did not know what being a leader was about. I did not know what it meant to be a leader. I just had the title, but looking back, I did not know what to do with it. I think, yes, I was a leader in terms of my academics, but I was not a leader in terms of leading people. And I think looking back, there are a lot of things that I would like to change. And there were a lot of things that I would have liked to put forward so that I can actually be a leader and lead my fellow classmates. So after primary school, I actually changed schools, and I went to a high school in the burbs, as people call it. But I changed from a public school, and then I went to a private school. The reason I mention that is that when you change schools, or when you change schools that are different in terms of the educational systems, that also plays a role into the type of person you become, or the type of person that you present yourself. So as I began my high school journey, I was new, and because I wanted to not be who I was in primary school in terms of my social life. In primary school, I really struggled with being social because I was the nerd, I was the academic. So nobody really wanted to hang out with me because they also saw me as the teacher's pet. And I wanted to be different when I was in high school, which looking back, I think it was not a good decision that I made, because I allowed people's opinions of who I am to shape the person that I was. So I told myself that, okay, I want to be more social. I want to hang out with not necessarily cool people, but I wanted to feel like I belong. And that made me make excuses as to why I am not doing well academically. Yes, it was a different academic program or different curriculum in a sense, but I lost myself by trying to be who I was not. I tried to be friends with people that are not doing well academically, or even though they were doing well, they were more social. And that put a barrier in terms of my skills or my academic achievements, because they have been doing that curriculum more than I was, or rather for a longer period than I was. And there were certain things that I had to learn and I had to adapt. But because I wanted to be who I'm not, it created a sense of failure in a sense. I had to work hard, but that still felt like it was not enough. And it felt like it was not enough because my thought process at that time was looking at those around me and how they saw me. So in essence, I really struggled from being an academic in primary school, getting colors and all of that, to transitioning to be a learner that was not doing as well as I had been used to. And that was because I had conditioned my mind that I do not want to be that loser academic or that nerd. So my thought process showed in my marks. As much as I had put in the work, because of the way that I had seen myself or the way that I saw myself, my marks had deteriorated. But during that time also, there were certain factors that played a role into how I did academically, and I ended up being depressed and suicidal and not really being in a good place. And I think when you are in a situation where you do not recognize yourself, you know, you need to allow yourself to learn and unlearn certain things about who you are. And I think that phase in my life allowed me to understand the type of person that I was. Not completely though, because I had felt very lost, as I could not figure out who I was at that point. And that really does play a role into the person that you are, or the person that you are trying to become. Because the type of person that I was is that when I started school in primary school, I had a whole entire list of, or rather goal list of who I want to be. And when that transitioned into a point in my life where I felt lost and confused, I had to start from scratch and realize that everything that I wanted to achieve at that point was unrealistic because it did not match the type of person that I was at that point. And moving on, I need to mention that in order for me to get into university, my marks were not as great as I would have liked them to be. I worked hard, or rather I pushed myself, but I still did not manage to get the marks that I wanted. But thankfully, I was able to get into university, but I got into an extended program of a BSc. And that allowed me to work hard. So I worked hard in my first year so that I can transition into the program that I actually wanted. So I had enrolled in a BSc in biotechnology. I was there the first year and I actually realized that this is not what I want to do. And it takes a lot of braveness to actually realize that this is not where I want to be. And it does not matter whether it feels like the year was a waste. I need to prepare myself to continue on to the next step, or rather the phase that I actually want to be. So I did that first year and I switched programs. So I had to start another first year in a different program, which is what I did. And I think I made a choice that, you know, made me feel happy. And a lot of people had been in my ear saying that the program that I want to get into is difficult. A lot of people don't make it out. And if I listened to people at that point, I don't think that I would be where I am right now. So I think it's very important to allow yourself to be shaped by your own thoughts, by your own values, by your own principles. And because if you allow other people around you, society at large, your parents, your friends, to influence the decisions that you want to make, you will end up living your life for them. And you'll look back, you'll be so unhappy because you did not make the choices or decisions that you wanted for yourself. So at that period, I saw that it was very important for me to put my blinkers on and go for what I want, which is a difficult decision because as people, we want external validation, especially when you are in your 20s or your young 20s. You want to impress people, you want to impress your parents. And but life forces you to make decisions for yourself because you're the person that needs to live with those decisions. So those were instances that indicated the type of leader that I wanted to be, or rather put me in a position where I had to be a leader for myself. So that is something that I have learned, that in order for me to be an authentic leader, I need to be able to lead myself before I take a stance to lead other people. So moving on, in my varsity years, I did well so that I was able to get my golden key membership, but it came to a period where certain things that had affected my life also put me back into my depressive state. So I fell back into depression, and this time it was very hard for me to get out of it. And that resulted in me not attending my classes, not attending tests that I needed to write. So ultimately, I failed my major modules, which put me back a year. And I think that was a very turning point in my life. It was a very important turning point in my life because that year I had realized a lot of things about myself. I had not experienced such a huge failure in my life or such a huge disappointment in my life. Or when you, or rather your family has been witnessing you just be great and achieving greatness, and then you get to a point where they're very disappointed in you and they don't understand how you are at a point where you have failed and things are not going well in your life. And that also came back to me, whereby I needed to in a sense, dissociate myself from the thoughts that my family or friends had about me. I had to sit down with myself and analyze the type of person that I am, analyze the type of person that I want to be outside of the noise. And I think for the most part, that journey taught me how to shut whatever noise around me tries to influence whatever choices it is that I want to make. I think I also learned a lot about myself. I was in a period where I had to sit with myself and acknowledge my failures, and not necessarily acknowledge them as me being defeated or me feeling like I can never achieve anything, but to see those failures as lessons in my life. Because I do not believe that when you fail just because. You fail because whatever higher power it is that you believe in tries to show you the type of life that you need to lead. And it needs to show you that through lessons. And sometimes lessons come through pain, or lessons come through heartache. And that's the only way that you can actually sit with yourself and sit with your emotions. So for the better part, there were times when, you know, you feel shame, or rather I felt shame because I had failed my year. There'd be friends or rather fellow students that would realize that, hey, I'm actually not in their final year. And I think the one part that stood out for me was when I was walking to my class, and one mate that I did not really know stopped me and pulled my headsets out and asked me, "Hey, what's going on with your life? Why are you not in our class?" And I had to be brave and say, "Oh no, I'm repeating my year." And I think for the most part, I know that that person asking me that was not from no good intentions. And I think it taught me a lot that, you know, there are people who will be asking you questions about your life or your journey, or trying to lead you by their thoughts or their words. And it is completely up to you whether you allow those people to have a voice in your life or in your journey. And that there'll always be people that don't wish you luck or don't have good intentions, because sometimes as people we become so oblivious that even if we are good people or we try our best to be good leaders, we think that there's so many people around here that are just like us. We don't think that they can be bad apples. And that is also what being a good leader is about, that you need to realize that not everybody will be happy for you. Not everybody will have good intentions. So that way you can filter out the bad apples from your life. Because if you have bad apples that are just hanging on your tree, they'll just influence other good apples around you, and you'll end up with a dead tree with no fruits to bear. So as people, we need to realize that we really need to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves from the noise that might influence our lives. We need to put our blinkers on and focus on ourselves. And once you're able to unlearn and learn certain things about yourself, and that's only when you'll be in a place where you can fill other people's cup. You can't lead from an empty cup. And if your cup is empty, what are you going to give to other people? What are you going to give to the future generation if you can't acknowledge the decisions that you make and how they might impact your life? If you can't acknowledge that, hey, here I actually made a blunder, I made a mistake, but that mistake does not necessarily shape my life, but how I wake up from that mistake or how I get up from that mistake will is what will essentially shape my life. So the other thing that I wanted to raise is that during my varsity years also, I joined a UNICEF UWC club. And the club is about leadership and volunteering and basically being for the children of society, or the children of the United Nations. I had joined that club for about 2 months, and there's a lot that I learned from it. And there was the current president of that club saw my strengths, saw my weaknesses, and I hadn't even been there for long, but when it was time for him to leave the club, he recognized my potential and said, hey, I'd actually like to nominate you as the president of the club. The reason I am saying this is that just because in certain instances of your life, there are people who don't recognize your potential, the right people will recognize your potential, and those are the correct spaces that you will be in. You won't be taken to spaces where you're not supposed to be. If you're fighting for a certain title and you're not getting it, perhaps you're fighting the wrong battle. And maybe you should rather look within yourself, or rather look at places that value you. And I think that is also one of the things that have shaped who I am, is that I recognize places that value me. With regards to that, when I had to choose where I'm going for my honors program, I had applied at different universities, and the one university that
really I felt like they really valued me was the university where I did my honors degree, which was University of the Western Cape. And the reason I'm saying that they valued me is that I had spoken to the different supervisors from different academic programs and universities, and listening to what offer they have for me in terms of the research project that I had to do. And as a person, you need to listen to what people say and how they say it. And people need to realize that when you are getting into an academic program, especially an honors program, whereby you have a supervisor, it's a two-way relationship. Yes, you want to get that degree, but also you need to get that degree with a person that sees value in you. So I saw that my supervisor values me by the way that they spoke, and by the way that they realized that as much as this is for me, for my academic progress, this is also for them, and we need to hold each other accountable, and we need to hold each other in the same principles and values in order to achieve what we both want. And that happens in all the relationships that you have with life, with people, so that don't find yourself in situations whereby you are the only one in the boat trying to lead two people to the same destination. We need to help each other row the boat. Otherwise, we are not going to get to the same destination, because one is putting more effort than the other. And that's how relationships also break. So as a leader, you also need to recognize that you cannot work by yourself. You need people. Some society has allowed us to believe that we need to cut people off, or this notion that you can only be successful by yourself. I feel like that is not true. I feel that we need people in order to achieve the same goal. And the most part, being able to communicate as a leader, being able to be vulnerable, being able to talk things out when there's conflict, shows that you are able to lead yourself, but also be able to lead other people. Sometimes you need to put yourself in a place where you need to be humble. You need to be the one that would apologize first, even though you did not do anything wrong. Apologize first for the better of whatever organization or leadership or whatever boat that you're in that you want to see at the end, because you're the leader. And that takes a huge amount of being vulnerable, because as people, ego and pride leads us a lot. So when you find yourself in a place where ego and pride do not play a role in decisions that you make, I think that will be a part where you can recognize that actually you're able to lead yourself, because you know the type of sacrifices that you need to make in order to be in a position that will allow you to be your authentic self. So for the most part, that is what being a leader is about. And I had recognized the type of person that I am and the type of person that I wanted to be. And I have to mention that during my honors year, I experienced a loss. My grandmother had passed away that year, and it was during COVID and all of that. And I think we both, or rather society as large, the country and the world, we all experienced great loss. And not necessarily that maybe people from our lives left us, but also we lost life as we knew it. The reason I am highlighting this point is that I was in a position in my life where I felt like, okay, I had lost my grandmother, and there's nothing that could hurt me anymore, or there's nothing that could change the way that I perceive life. But, you know, in life, what it taught me is that you can never say that, okay, this is the end of the journey. We cannot put your emotions or experience experiences in a box. I think that would be a very dangerous thing, because now if you feel that nothing will be able to move you, to change you, or to mold you, you end up being shocked when new experiences push you to get out of that box and you find yourself not ready for it. And the reason I'm mentioning this is that that's what my internship did for me. I applied for a 2-year internship so that I can be registered as a medical biological scientist and specialize as an embryologist. So that means that I had to go through a 2-year intensive program academically and practical work. And I think looking back, it might have been the toughest program or the toughest moments of my life, because it pushed me to deal with myself. It pushed me to deal with situations that I had never dealt with before. It pushed me to be a person whereby I had to be honest with myself. And it pushed me to a point where I need to realize that giving up is not an option. And I had to really look deep into myself and what I want and how I want to shape my life. I mentioned that, you have to put on your blinkers and you have to not allow people to, or people's voices rather, to shape the type of person that you want to be. But sometimes you end up in positions where you are not strong enough to be able to deal with those noises, or the way people talk about you overwhelm you because you're not strong enough to receive them. You're not at a point where you can deal with them. And that happens no matter how strong you think you are, no matter how strong you think certain journeys have shaped you. You must always expect that there'll always be another experience that will show sides of you that you have not dealt with. So we should not box ourselves. We should not box our experiences. And so that when certain instances or certain circumstances happen in our lives, we're not shocked and we're ready for them. So that's what my internship was about. I had to deal with a lot of noises. I had to deal with people saying that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not meant to be here, or people will say things that will disrupt who you are, or will disrupt where your mental health is. And we as people give other people the power to control the narratives about our lives. And I won't sit here and say that I was strong enough not to allow people's voices to create a narrative about myself. I did. I allowed them. And, that shakes parts of yourself that you did not even know existed, because you have built yourself up to a point where you thought that you are unbreakable. You thought that you have worked on yourself, only for certain circumstances to actually reveal parts of yourselves that are not healed. And as much as I would look back and say that, yes, there are moments that broke me throughout that internship, but those moments that broke me, I had a choice to decide whether I let them break me or whether I let them build me. And these words might sound so cliche, but in reality, that is what life is about. You need to be at a point where you decide whether certain moments in your life build you or they break you. And as I said that, certain failures in my life, I have realized, or rather I have recognized them as lessons. So sometimes when bad things happen in your life, you need to sit down with yourself and rather work through your thoughts and realize, or rather acknowledge, whether these things, are you going to let them break you, or are you going to let them build you? And as you build yourself, that's how you'll be able to build other people. But sometimes as leaders, we tend to overextend ourselves and fill other people's cups. And we feel guilty for taking a moment and filling our cup and just recognizing that, hey, actually, I need time out. I need time to tend to myself. And I think that is what makes a leader, to recognize when you are in need of yourself, when you are in need to fill your own cup. And the way that you would do that is that take self-care days. Those are very important to actually realize or recognize what it is that you need for yourself. I'm an advocate for mental health, so I go to therapy, and that is what fills my cup. And it is something that has been stigmatized for a very long time. And I think for the most part, as a leader that I'm trying to be, I had to sit with myself and say, you know what, this is my reality. I go to therapy because I suffer from depression and anxiety. And that is not my identity, but I need to be able to address it head on and acknowledge and not be fearful of the stigma that's around it, not be fearful of how people might receive me because of a certain condition that I have. But I need to acknowledge that I am very brave, or a person is very brave if you're able to acknowledge the shortfalls in your life, if you're able to acknowledge that, hey, I have a certain problem, but the difference is that I am dealing with it. I am trying to get the help that I need. And that's what will set you apart from people. So yeah, that is the type of leader I feel that a person needs to be. You need to be able to lead yourself. If you're able to lead yourself, then you'll be able to lead other people. So in life, as you go by, I have learned a lot of lessons, and I am still learning a lot regarding myself. And speaking on that, I have become very aware of the type of person that I am and the type of person that I want to be. And I had thought about what I'm going to say during the speech. And I thought that, writing something down, I might be able to edit it. And I did not want to edit anything in the speech because that would be like editing parts of my life and trying to present myself as a person that's perfect with perfect English. And I think that's what we want to strive as, or how we try to portray ourselves to the world, that we are perfect people. I don't want to leave this platform and people view me as a person that I'm not. And I'd like to just further wrap up and say that congratulations for everything that you have achieved thus far. I think that you have come to a point where you're able to lead yourselves, and in a sense also lead many. So really congratulations to the program graduates, and as well as the winners of the Facilitator Awards. And I wish everybody the best, and I hope that everything that I've said you will take forth and enjoy the rest of your leadership journey. Thank you.